environment like this, which quite frankly is pretty exciting currently, is to travel with an elite defense, and Miami certainly has that.
Miami won the toss and decided to defer. So Reed takes a knee, and Virginia will have it at the 25-yard line. Bryce Perkins, the quarterback, a junior, and his bloodlines are tremendous. His Uncle Don, former Cowboys running back, Father Bruce, Arizona State, toted the rock back in the late 80s, and Paul Perkins, a Giants running back for the last couple of years, former UCLA tailback. He's out with a torn pec right now for New York, but Bryce Perkins has been the added mixture guy for UVA. He has been electric, taking over for Kurt Benkert, who left after last season. Perkins to throw on first down, has a quick slant for Olamide Zaccheaus. And that is Virginia's hallmark, staying ahead of the chains offensively.
Yeah, Virginia has to be exceptional on first down, and it leads to them being one of the best third down conversion teams at a little over 50%. They're going to have to live in that place here tonight against Miami's defense,
which has been awesome overall and on third down this year. Perkins gets away from the linebacker and across the 40 for a first down. Those three linebackers for Miami are so good, but Pinckney missed him the first time around.
Yeah, and this almost looked like Perkins had this set up. I think he just saw Pinckney out of the corner of his eye, but that's the difference with Virginia's offense this year versus the throwing offense of a year ago is Perkins' feet. He's the best athlete maybe on the field in terms of offensively for Virginia, and making plays like that is crucial here this evening.
They will motion a lot of guys around here. Virginia. Ellis goes down in the arms of Gerald Willis III, who's one of the impact players this side of the ball.
Yeah, Gerald Willis III, a defensive tackle, is complete destruction up front, and you have to double team him, which leads to one-on-ones on the edge for Miami defensively. And then it's Olamide Zaccheaus. We already saw him on the catch. He's a volume guy. My goal as a play caller for Virginia tonight would be to use that guy until he can't even stand up straight.
Destruction, the word you used, is the one that Perkins used about this defense on tape. So that's what he's staring down on a second down and long for the first time tonight. Another quick hitter, and Virginia using the tight ends more nowadays. Tanner Cowley on a gain of 9.
Yeah, and all of that leads to a third and makeable again, and Cowley is the tight end. Just go down, show your numbers to the quarterback, and then Perkins is really, really good at decision-making and getting the ball out quickly, like on that play right there, and lo and behold, we're third and very convertible once again. This is where Virginia lives on the offensive side of the ball when they're really in rhythm. That was Evan Butts, the tight end, on the gain of 9. That's Cowley in motion, and they will run straight ahead and pick up the first down inside the 45. First down, Virginia, on this opening drive, which has been solid so far. Yeah, and Virginia, I think, actually likes their matchups out wide on the perimeter as far as receivers versus man-to-man coverage, but it's about the offensive line up front, making sure there isn't that quick penetration to let this Miami defense hunt like they like to do in the form of tackles for loss as well as takeaways. On the roll, Perkins throws across his body, and there is the takeaway. Trajan Bandy with the interception for Miami. And I see exactly what Bryce Perkins was looking for. Olamide Zaccheaus set down inside, and Perkins tried to throw back across his body and just airmailed this. And this is exactly what you cannot do. A very difficult throw, high risk there. Just run the ball out of bounds or throw the ball away and live to play another down against Miami's defense. 45 turnovers the last 19 games, and they've got that Chaney Day feeling again on the sideline for Miami. Quick hitter, D. Wiggins on the catch, and the 15th turnover created this year by the Miami defense takes it away from Perkins. And
they talk about this thing like it's an idol. We draw energy from it, is what they say.
And this team does. There isn't any doubt about that. It's a momentum flipper, and we saw it last week against Florida State.
This is a run game. Travis Homer, who invites contact. He's into plus territory, and a 3rd down and short coming up.
Travis Homer is a powerful one cut and get down field or heel kind of guy, and he's an arm tackle breaker. And so conversely, Virginia is a very good tackling team, and they're going to have to be sewn up in that area tonight.
Third down and 2. And a flag has come in.
Timeout, Virginia. First timeout.
Timeout first for Virginia. Well, we told you about his big game in 1995. It was him versus Warwick Dunn, and Virginia won. 3rd down, Miami. Homer is stonewalled. Zane Zandier, the inside linebacker, got there. It's 4th down. What do you do?
And it was about Zandier's penetration. And I believe Mark Richt right now is going to put it on his offensive line and go for this early in this one. It looks like the offense for Miami is staying out, but it's all about penetration on.
Those of you who watched the conclusion of Washington, Oregon, welcome here. 4th down, Miami on its opening drive of the game. N'Kosi Perry to run. Up the middle, and he's turned around. He's very close. Looks like he might be just short. Gotta check the spot here. N'Kosi Perry spun around, and does Virginia have a turnover on downs?
And Jason, to be honest with you, this may come down to which officials spot one out, because 2 are coming from either sideline, and the one coming from our sideline definitely had N'Kosi Perry coming up short.
They will measure.
And remember, line to gain is reviewable if needed.
It is 1st down, Virginia. So the turnover chain came out. They couldn't pay it off. We'll be back in 30. Virginia ball after this.
This building season has been Jimmy's longest. He's survived record rain and a supplier that went belly up.
"30 seconds goes by fast here in the ACC. Bryce Perkins on the run, and he's got a couple of yards. The transfer from Arizona Western Community College by way of Chandler High School. Bryce Perkins, who has added a dimension to this Virginia offense this year.
And quite frankly, it's a dimension that offensive coordinator Robert Anae and head coach Bronco Mendenhall has wanted since they had Taysom Hill at BYU. Their offense is certainly much better when they have a really good athlete at that quarterback position. Spread the field. Don't go fast necessarily, as we see Virginia trying to burn a timeout. Because
they got too many guys in the huddle, I think.
At least one,
illegal
if not
substitution. 2. Offense, 12 men in formation. 5-yard penalty.
With that penalty, we'll step aside. No score here in Charlottesville. Bryce Perkins sacked by Michael Pinckney. It's a loss at 10, so 3rd down and long coming up. Penalty dropped him back to 2nd and 8, and now they're 3rd and 18.
Yeah, Jason, last year when Virginia jumped out to a 2-touchdown lead clear into the 3rd quarter, it was about executing when you had opportunities and then ball security. And we're seeing a lack of execution early and a lack of ball security when the quarterback Perkins throws a pick on that first drive.
And now a whistle before the snap.
Again, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Well, for Bronco Mendenhall, who's as thoughtful and analytical of a coach as you're going to run into in college football, this is not exactly the most well thought out first couple of drives.
Yeah, no question about it. And Bronco Mendenhall, as you can see, looks exasperated early in this one, because remember, Miami's defense is elite, and quite frankly, they don't need any assistance.
Yeah, 3rd and forever for Virginia here. Perkins gets outside and creates some yardage. He slid, but a little bit late, and you wouldn't imagine they throw the flag here at the 45. Willis tracked him down. But Miami allows less than 20% conversion on third down this year. That's the best in the FBS. And on 3rd and 18, you might as well just buy a lottery ticket.
I guarantee you this, Virginia isn't converting at 51% on 3rd down because they've lived in the 3rd and 18 neighborhood.
Good news for Virginia is the punting situation is better than the place-kicking situation. Lester Coleman to boot it to Jeff Thomas, who's okay after a knee injury. Miami came after him and dropped him. No flag comes in, and Miami will have it. Been waiting for his whole life is to be the starting quarterback for Miami. 4 passing touchdowns last week against the Seminoles. This is his first road start, and the opening drive was thwarted on a 4th down and short in Virginia territory. DJ Dallas, the tailback, the explosive sophomore. And Dallas gets the carry for just a couple.
So, Jason, when you're a quarterback getting your first road start, what you want out of your play caller, which, oh, by the way, it's the head coach, Mark Richt, is you want to get comfortable early. So look for high percentage passing, some decision-making in the run game, which really taken out of his hands, some called give stuff, and I think that's what we're seeing early in this one.
Miami, for the most part, is a running team. Last couple of weeks, they've passed well under 50% of the time. They'll go back to the ground and nothing there for DJ Dallas. It's 3rd and long. Charles Snowden, the former basketball standout with the tackle in a very depleted Virginia defense. Malcolm Cook, Chris Moore down, Jordan Mack, Richard Burney, the defensive end, is a former tight end.
One of those decision-making moments is right here. The first 3rd and a passing down. We'll see how N'Kosi Perry holds up under pressure because he's going to get some out of Virginia defensively.
How will they disguise their looks tonight? They stunt at the line. Peace was coming. They picked him up down the sideline. And that's brought in D. Wiggins. At the edge, a flag has come in. And we'll check the marker. It's on Miami.
Holding offense, number 62. 10-yard penalty. 3rd down.
So, Jason, there are a lot of ways to get production by pressuring the passer, and one of them is a hold that we see on this particular play. You bring extra bodies, and this is exactly who Bronco Mendenhall is defensively. Nick Howell is now the play caller as Bronco has given that up for the first time here at Virginia, but it's all about pressure, disguising, and trying to give the young quarterback something that Nick Howell told us is unrecognizable. And that time, it wasn't about N'Kosi Perry. He threw a strike out to Wiggins, but his offensive line was a little bit leaky.
Wipes out a 27-yard gain on the holding penalty against Mahoney. 3rd and long. Perry nearly crossed the line. Now he does, has to run, and he's yanked out of bounds by Zane Zandier. It's 4th down. Virginia's defense playing well.
And Virginia's defense has played well, really after about the first season that Bronco Mendenhall was here. It's a high-pressure defense. It's a diverse defense. A lot of different looks. That time, they showed N'Kosi Perry pressure, but they actually played coverage on the back end, and there was nobody to throw that football to.
And another whisk by remote control. Our robot overlords here at Virginia. Great school here at UVA and technologically savvy as Tavares Kelly, the freshman, approaches to make the catch on the return. And this Virginia team gave Miami quite the scare last year. Kurt Benkert had maybe his best half at quarterback for UVA. 28-14 after a 14-0 advantage. Zacchaeus Early touchdown, 28-14. Ben Kurt looked awesome, but Miami's defense once again caused trouble. There was an interception for a touchdown that made the game 28-28. Homer helped put it away, and the Hurricanes 44-28, the final score. But as expected, the Miami defense was the catalyst in that game. Late decision on the handoff for Ellis, who gets about a yard. That's not where you want to go against Miami.
No, it isn't. And one of the things that Virginia wants to do on the offensive side is they want to, obviously they want to run the ball better, but that's easier said than done against Miami. But the way they want to run the ball is more run game decisions post snap when the quarterback has the ball in his hands, and let Bryce Perkins make some of those plays. Not only if it means he keeps the ball, if that's the right read, but let him make those decisions after the snap.
Well, we know he can throw and run. He's tried to catch as well earlier this season. Here, he throws it out wide to Joe Reed. In space, Reed across the 45. First down, Virginia.
JB, there it is right there. This is the modern day triple option. Zone read inside, nothing there. The quarterback pulls it, and then throw it to your best playmaker, which is Olamide Zaccheaus. That's the triple option, the way it's played out of gun, and that's the decision making I was just talking about. And that was a spectacular couple of decisions on that play.
That doesn't look anything like Georgia Tech.
No.
But it's kind of the same concept in terms of the decision tree. As Sharp checks in as the tailback, and Perkins off a spin goes down. He's sacked as we check in with Olivia.
Well, that last pass was Perkins' first pass since the pick in the first drive. And just something to note, he does have a dislocated pinky on his throwing hand. In our meetings yesterday, he had it all taped up, and he told me he was hoping to go without it. I saw him warming up with the tape still on, but no glove, and now obviously he's added the glove. He told us that it doesn't hurt his accuracy, but it does hurt that velocity. So Kelly, especially you, I want to know if you see that.
Yeah, and the pinky is the stabilizer, and it's actually the first finger to come off the ball when you spin it. But if you remove your pinky, it doesn't feel right in terms of remove it from the football, and I think that's what Perkins is dealing with currently.
Perkins intercepted. He wanted Reed, and he's picked off for the second time in the game. Sheldrick Redwine. Where's the chain?
Oh, trust me, the chain's out there somewhere, and Redwine is just going to benefit from Bryce Perkins just not seeing things clearly currently. There was a crossing route deep down the middle by Joe Reed, but that ball came out late. When you're late over the middle, you're asking for trouble, and when Miami's defense is out there, you can times that trouble by something in the neighborhood of 10.
15-yard return for Redwine. He goes to the jewelry store.
That's a beautiful chain.
That's 2.0 now.
Have they upgraded that since last season?
They have. It's Sebastian the Ibis now that they derive their energy from. Perry zigzagging through traffic, and he whistles it incomplete. D. Wiggins has seen a lot of time. Second down coming up. On the injury to Perkins, by the way, we talked about the pinky injury. He hurt himself trying to catch a pass.
Yeah, of all things, and it was a pass that was low. I said, don't you know how to hold your hands in the triangle, index fingers together, thumbs together to catch the ball? He said, actually, it was low, so I had to turn my hands over, and I got it right off the end of the pinky and dislocated and actually tore a ligament. And so
I bring it up because when you made that triangle, you kind of looked like you were starting to make the U motion, which he didn't need in his life.
Yeah, he doesn't need that. And on the other side of the ball, N'Kosi Perry is a guy that is on the road for the first time, and his decision-making has been pretty decent, even though his offensive line isn't getting a lot of push in the run game currently. So far as decision-making for the youngster has been quite buttoned up.
Pressure coming from the corner. Homer picks it up, may have held. This ball down the middle is intercepted. Joey Blount, the safety. Just short of midfield.
Well, basically, I'm going to stop talking about quarterback's decision-making because I just said that DORSEY Perry had been pretty buttoned up, but this is throwing the ball deep middle with the safety single high, and in this case, it's Joey Blunt. Joey Blunt had nothing to do but to retreat in center field and catch the football. There was pressure off the right side. You have a go route going up the inside of the hash with the middle safety. If you're going to throw that at all, it has to be driven. But driving that throw right there wasn't even going to work for DORSEY Perry,
who worked off of short fields quite a bit in the second half last week. Now PERKINS on the roll, has the completion across the 45. Hassis Dubois for a first down. And talking about Joey Blunt, who just had the interception, high praise from the guy next to him. Juan Thornhill, his co-safety, said Blunt reminds him of Quinn Blanding,
wow,
one of the all-time leading tacklers that you'll see in college football, who left after last season.
And specifically why? Fundamentally sound and a terrific tackler. That's who Quinn Blanding was here, and that's exactly who Blunt is showing himself to be.
Freshman Kelly in motion. PERKINS wants shot, but it's through his hands. Boy, there are hurricanes everywhere, and that might be a late personal foul coming. They're already without Derek Smith for the first half after a targeting penalty last week. That's Michael Jackson who came in.
Personal foul. Targeting. It's a personal foul with targeting. Number 28 on the defense.
Looking for forcible contact to the head or neck area of a defenseless player, which a receiver attempting to catch a forward pass is. We have that. Looks like forcible contact to the head or neck, and he launched and led with the shoulder.
Yeah, I think this is going to be confirmed. I think that's exactly what Michael Jackson does. And I think this targeting is going to be upheld, and that's going to be Miami without maybe their best cover corner, who has made himself into a really good player, a very good tackler, much more physical on the outside. But to me, that's textbook targeting.
We'll check.
After review, personal foul with targeting, number 28. Defense is confirmed. That is a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Number 28 is disqualified from the game.
That's the right call.
Yeah.
Textbook targeting.
And it's unfortunate because Michael Jackson is a tremendous cover corner for this elite Miami defense, but well officiated right there in every aspect.
So he'll be replaced by Javonte Dean, the senior out of Homestead, Florida, who does have 2 picks this year. Jackson has to leave the playing field. And now they're without 2 guys in the defensive backfield for this first half, and then Jackson in the second half. PERKINS down the middle, has a short completion to the 20. Hassis Dubois gets 6.
And I think that's where Virginia has to be offensively in the pass game, is they have to go down in the voids of the zone that Miami is playing currently and just stop in a window and let your quarterback make a decision.
Even against these linebackers who played together for so long?
Yeah, because I think moving through those zones has gotten your quarterback in trouble twice, with 2 interceptions when Bryce PERKINS did not see it clearly.
His only 2 incompletions were picks. Here he runs. PERKINS gives himself up, and the reason he's not designed running as much, as Bronco Mendenhall told us, is they don't want PERKINS to get hurt. He's made very good decisions to slide multiple times tonight already.
And that's the confidence that Robert Anae has to put in their quarterback, is trust Bryce PERKINS to make quality decisions, to run it personally when you should, but then to protect yourself at the end.
PERKINS sees trouble coming, and down he goes. Miami's Shaq Quarterman got in there.
And Jason, with Gerald Willis and Pat Bethel at the defensive tackle positions, your escape hatch is not down the middle against this group. They are
quarter, but nothing to show for it. Second down for Perkins. Bryce Perkins, a carousel in the backfield, and he finds his way inside the 10, tiptoeing out of bounds.
Another great decision with Bryce Perkins' feet. Nothing there initially, and I think that was a designed draw for the quarterback. But once again, I think it's slim pickings in the tackle box against Miami defensively. What Miami is doing is they're trying to make hay rushing their 4-down linemen and playing 7 on the back end. There hasn't been many windows to throw into for Virginia in this first half.
Third down, pressure up the middle. Perkins dodged it for a moment. And now what do? Your kicker could be any of 3 guys.
Yeah, you want to get points, but you're exactly right. This is a crapshoot when you're trying to throw a kicker out there for UVA currently.
Their kicking situation is Goldilocks without the just right. They have Hunter Pearson, Brian Delaney, A.J. Mejia, and it's going to be Delaney.
Bronco Mendenhall hoping the temperature's just right.
Bryce Perkins got Virginia down the field in position for a field goal, which Brian Delaney hit from 26 yards away. And the Cavaliers trying to pick up a primetime win at home. This will be a touchback, and we check in with Chris Cotter. How about that? You kind of called that last week, and you got that smile on your face after we saw the
I like Brock Purdy, I know that.
He was amazing.
He was out of his mind good.
As comfortable of a first-time, full-time quarterback as you'll see. N'Kosi Perry, first road start. He's got a completion, and that goes for a first down to Lawrence Cager. First down tonight for the Hurricanes comes more than a minute into the second quarter, and here's why.
Yeah, it's definitely trending poorly as far as the drive chart is concerned. So you want your young quarterback to dictate some rhythm right here. Not much of a run game. Virginia's defense has played really, really well so far.
First down, quick hitter, Jeff Thomas. And that's something that can build your confidence as a young quarterback, right?
Absolutely. High percentage throws to guys out in space that have really good athleticism and speed. Jeff Thomas is chief among them outside. So bounce the ball outside to your playmakers. Remember what offense is about in college football. Get your dudes the ball. Who are they? ID them and get them the football in space and let them go to work.
Oh, he's got dudes. And Thomas, 17 plays of 20 yards or more. They'll run this time. Homer dodges out of bounds, but there's that contact he instigates sometimes, putting his shoulder down. Rob Snyder over at the sideline along with Blunt, and it's third down.
Yeah, Homer is kind of a snarky runner.
A little snarky.
Is that proper?
I
like
think
violent and nasty and a little bit snarky in terms of his disposition.
Yeah, he will he'll hit you.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And sometimes it seems like he goes out of his way to maybe do a little of that.
He's got Trayon Gray in the backfield with him. And it is Gray diving to midfield. First down. The converted tailback, Trayon Gray, said, coaches, how can I play?
I know it.
And they said, you're going to play fullback. He said, okay, I'll learn it. Let's go.
Yeah, as a redshirt senior, walk into your offensive coordinator's office and say, what can I do to help? How can I get on the field? And it's like, let's turn your 240 pounds into a blocking fullback or a short yardage carry guy. And there he is.
They call him Chalk. Trayon Gray. Blitz shown from the corner. It does come. Dallas picks it up. Intercepted. Juan Thornhill. And Thornhill keeps on going. Inside the 10. We have an official down on the interception. It's a 63-yard return.
Well, you named it, Jason. There was pressure showing off the top of the screen, the right of the quarterback, and I think Perry saw it. That's where his head was looking. Instinctively, you kind of speed things up. I think Perry was trying to move a defender out in the flat that didn't move, and Juan Thornhill was having none of it, and it hits him right in the chest, and then Thornhill turns into a really good athlete and makes the most out of it. Yeah, look at that official. You talk about being in harm's way. Oh, my Lord, and that head went really hard down to the ground.
So Jeff Flanagan and our crew looks all put together.
Way to go, Mr. Flanagan, because that was a brutal hit. And remember, the official going to the ground and hitting his head doesn't have a helmet on.
That's true. They stop play when a helmet comes off a ball carrier and you can't participate when you're a player. The official goes down, and Juan Thornhill, who was an outstanding basketball player growing up, shows the athleticism to set up a 1st and goal UVA. Reed drops it, and is it a forward pass? Let's see. They're going to say it's a fumble out of bounds, and Virginia will keep it.
Running on the field, it's an incomplete forward pass. 2nd down.
Well, it looked like the near side official spotted it and started waving. That's a backward pass. The official on the near side went to the position where the ball went near the sideline and started waving with his hands up without waving incomplete. Question is, will replay stop this? And the answer is absolutely. Call on the field was incomplete pass. A lot of layers to this. Was it a backward pass? Was it clearly recovered by Miami? And also, will replay stop play to actually take a look officially? They look at every play, but will they actually stop play and officially review it? What do you think?
Yeah, the quarterback released it from the 13-yard line, and I think the receiver touched it just behind that to some extent. So I think it was a backward pass, but during that timeout, there were plenty of time for the replay booth to look at it, and we're playing football. And it was ruled an incomplete pass on the field.
Straight up the middle. Ellis, touchdown.
Well, Jason, if you want a winning formula against Miami currently, first of all, don't turn the ball over. But Virginia has done that, and Virginia's defense has held up extremely well. Miami is 2nd in the country points off of turnovers, and they have 2 and 0 points off of that. The points off of turnovers are all about UVA right now. 10 of them off of 2 turnovers.
Virginia attacks.
That's as uncommon as the quarterback having time against this Miami defense, but so far so good for Bryce Perkins.
Short fields have paid off. Lingard. The return, a flag comes in. Well, pardon Jeff Flanagan if this takes a moment. He just got trucked on the last possession.
2 fouls during the play. Holding number 5 receiving team. 10-yard penalty. After the play, personal foul, defense, number 21 will penalize the receiving team 10 yards, and then we'll penalize the kicking team 15 yards. Receiving team will keep the ball 1st down.
It's a net of 5 on the penalty for Miami, which turns away from number 5 to number 12. Malik Rozier, the quarterback, is in. Olivia mentioned it before the game. Mark Richt thought about doing this last week. He turns to Rozier, his senior, down 10. What do you think?
An interesting start on the road for a young quarterback, and certainly N'Kosi Perry was not off to a great start. But I think right now, head coach Mark Richt is just looking for something to ignite his team holistically, and the best way to do that at times is a quarterback change, although sometimes it's not exactly fair, but it's the one place on the field that can change momentum, and we'll see if Malik Rozier does it right here.
Is this short-sighted is the question. Do you end up having a quarterback debate all year? DJ Dallas driven back. Not much there. You're playing for the long term here. You want to win the Coastal Division, get to the ACC championship. What does this do to N'Kosi Perry?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that's exactly why Mark Richt did not make the decision to take N'Kosi Perry out of the game last week. Even though statistically he wasn't real sound throughout the entire game, in the second half it was a perfect storm. Miami's defense changed the momentum, and Perry made some nice throws. We'll see what Malik Rozier can do right here.
Rozier with Thornhill coming, and he threw the wrong pattern, or Thomas ran the wrong pattern. Third down, Olivia.
Guys, I've watched Malik on the sideline, and he's been very engaged and very supportive. And our own Allison Williams had this game last week, and she said the same exact thing. Now, Malik has accounted for 5 touchdowns this season for Miami, and all have been on the ground. So maybe they're looking for something more in that way. But N'Kosi Perry, obviously very frustrated.
Yeah, Olivia, I think that's a great point, because even the defensive coordinator for Virginia, Nick Howell, told us that he thought Rozier brings more in the quarterback run game than N'Kosi Perry does. A lot of people wouldn't understand that. Perry's thought to be more accurate and have more arm talent, but you're right. Up front right now, Miami is not getting a lot going.
A whistle and a timeout, Miami. So the Hurricanes have burned all 3 of their timeouts.
Miami.
With 10 to see how your school can compete, shirtless or not. They're getting loud here in Charlottesville tonight. Looking for an upset of division leader Miami. Malik Rozier in at quarterback for this drive. Snowden's coming. Rozier incomplete. Bryce Hall had the coverage, 4th down.
Bryce Hall, the corner outside, was all over D. Wiggins. And right now what you're seeing out of the defense for Virginia is they're very comfortable on their matchups on the outside. There's a lot of man-to-man going on and not a whole lot of separation by a very speedy, athletic, and long group outside on the perimeter for Miami offensively.
Tavares Kelly decided not to fair catch. Kelly mazes his way ahead to the 39. 8 yards of beauty. This week, Sunday NFL Countdown, behind the scenes in the Patriots locker room. The "Aw yeah" mantra they've got. Capping off every New England victory for more than a decade. All access in the City of Angels with Sean McVay, Jared Goff, and the Rams in that 5-0 start. Sunday NFL Countdown, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. And then Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Looked like he was going to be done for the year in the opener. He'll play again against the 49ers, 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific on ESPN. Simulcast in Spanish on ESPN2. Coverage starts with Monday Night Countdown at 6. Served by Applebee's. There's some question as to whether or not the return was stopped. Tavares Kelly, was his knee down? The stunning conclusion after this. Starts at risk here, Tavares Kelly on the return. What surprises me about this more than anything, this play notwithstanding, is that they're going to review this, but not the near backward pass from earlier that had multiple components that looked like were at issue.
Yeah, and remember that theoretically, and in some form, every play is reviewed.
Yes.
Even though there isn't game stoppage at times. But you're exactly right. I thought it was a backward pass, and the question is whether Trajan Bandy, the corner for Miami's defense, actually possessed the football.
I do think Kelly's down here. Yeah. I'm not saying it's wrong to stop it, but if you're going to stop it for this in a couple yards in terms of competitive advantage,
I'm not sure they actually overturned that either. I don't know that there's indisputable video evidence, but I'm not sure it was worth looking at. But by the way, Tavares Kelly is a guy, a true freshman for Virginia that has flashed in practice from the beginning, and they're trying to get him more involved. The return game is one way, and he's been fearless tonight on 2 returns, even though it hasn't been that productive. But they need to get touches for this young man. He has track speed that would make a difference for Virginia offensively.
He's from Florida as well, from Fort Lauderdale. St. Thomas Aquinas, the football powerhouse down there. He was on a high school relay team along with Al Blades of Miami. This is a 10-yard difference at issue.
Yeah, and I think based on where the frame was stopped right there, this may be coming back to where that left knee of Tavares Kelly was apparently down.
But again, earlier you've got a possible incomplete pass or fumble, possible change of possession.
I am feeling your frustration, but we can't go back and do anything about that.
It's true. But material concern is the reason for instant replay.
I completely agree. We've had some issues with the replay process the last few weeks, by the way.
In other news, though, Bronco Mendenhall's defense, which is no longer calling plays in, has been fantastic.
The runner was down at the 31-yard line. Please reset the game clock to 10 minutes, 13 seconds, please.
And I'm with you. I'm feeling what you're saying, and it is frustrating, and it's sometimes without explanation. But Tavares Kelly's knee goes down, loses 10 yards for his team, apparently.
And to wrap this conversation, I like instant replay. You do too.
Yeah.
Quite often they get it right, but
sometimes they don't.
Yeah, one play Miami would want to have back. So from the 31, Bryce Perkins, the quarterback, who's come from community college to start here at Virginia, goes upstairs. Bandy against Dubois, who comes away. Trajan Bandy picks it off. He didn't get the fumble recovery on the non-review. He has the pick of Perkins.
Dubois was the intended receiver out of the RPO, the run-pass option. Zone inside and then throw it outside. And it was slightly underthrown to a really big receiver in Dubois. 6'3", you got to put that ball down the field another 2 yards, and this isn't a question, but how about the play by Bandy to high point that and fight for it?
They're playing without the corner across from him because of targeting. The turnover chain is out and lives again. We'll see if they can put this one in. Third turnover for Miami in this game, and a lot in the wash there as we check in with Chris Cotter.
All right, while the Who's celebrate that defensive play, Michigan fans will celebrate Karan Higdon taking it over from 2 yards out, 7-0 over on ABC. Wolverines draw first blood there. Alabama is just drawing all kinds of blood here against Mizzou. First, Irv Smith on the receiving end. This one time, they scored again, 27-10, second quarter.
Alabama can find a vein with the best of them. They draw blood every Saturday in a big way. Second down, Rozier at quarterback. He loads up a ball down the sideline and has a completion inside the 25. Lawrence Cager, the big target, with a big hit for Miami.
And off the play action pass, and Jeff Thomas was out there along with Cager, and Thomas went to the post and took coverage with him, and the flat defender got a little bit too flat, and Cager had some room on that corner route outside.
And Cager's injured over on the sideline, the junior out of Towson, Maryland. So Miami a little thinner at receiver off their third first down of the game. A lot of passing for Miami. Rozier uncorks to the end zone, and it's incomplete. Out of the back of the end zone, he wanted Mark Pope. Bratton had the coverage, and it's second down. So a lot of freshmen getting run at receiver right now for Miami.
And if Rozier wants to have any shot at that, that ball has to come out about a second and a half sooner than it did. There was no room for that ball to be completed. But how about with Rozier in the game? Mark Richt is opening up this game to some extent.
He must feel like there are gaps in his secondary. Homer outside. Nothing there. He squirted through for maybe 2. It's 3rd down for Miami.
Yeah, and that's exactly why the play caller, head coach Mark Richt, is going to the vertical pass game, because the offensive line of scrimmage for Miami right now just isn't getting the job done. You can see right there the offensive first downs 3, defensive takeaways 3. That's who Miami is a lot of Saturdays.
That defense has been their most substantial offense historically. Cager back in on 3rd down. Rozier, pressure, Snowden got there, and finally goes down. They'll give him the 29. Mandy Alonso, the sophomore out of Miami.
Virginia defensively, they're coming from somewhere. The question is whether the quarterback and the pass protection can diagnose it. This time it's to the left of Rozier, overloaded. At the very least, you get one-on-ones up front. At the most, you get pressure on Rozier, and Virginia did right there.
Alonso, who Miami coaches, the story goes, tried to flip on signing day. They couldn't do it. As Bubba backs up, who's 4 for 6 in his freshman season, tries to get Miami on the board and backs in. Nearly half a dozen national championships for the Hurricanes. Joe Reed on the return. Reed spins through a tackle, and he's to the 33. Miami and Notre Dame 30 years ago. Miami scored with 45 seconds remaining. Jimmy Johnson said go for 2. Steve Walsh had it batted down. 31-30 your final score.
We don't go for no ties, right? Mark Richt would just like to have a point or 2. And I know Baxter just hit one right down the middle, but the offense right now for Miami is lacking.
A lot of motion. Perkins runs. Chris Cotter in the studio.
All right, guys, everybody from Michigan obviously keeping a keen eye on Jonathan Taylor. So what does that mean? Quickly, Kendrick Pryor out of the backfield gets to the edge. He scores 7-7 right now on ABC.
Well, Mr. Acho, during the halftime of the earlier games, took us through Jonathan Taylor and what he does, and that offensive line creating space for him. And he's going to have to be the guy if they're going to beat Michigan over on ABC. Jordan Ellis has the touchdown for Virginia, and he's to the 39. So 3rd down and manageable again for UVA, which likes to live right there under Robert and I.
Yeah, in 3rd and manageable, to me, if I'm Robert and I'm getting the ball in Bryce Perkins' hand and getting him out on the edge. I love that triple option they ran earlier. Zone inside, quarterback run to the edge, or instead of the pitch on the option, you have a swing pass to a receiver outside. So I would hope we would see some of that.
Offensive coordinator and I in the thick of it here on a 3rd down for his offense. Perkins, a statue back there. Pressure comes down, heats him up. Perkins to the sideline and incomplete. Let's check in with Olivia.
Well, Bryce Perkins came into this game throwing only 4 interceptions in the first 5 games, and then, of course, has 3 tonight. So just an interesting note that his quarterback coach is up in the press box for the first time this season. So they're communicating over the phone, which was by design. And the reason is they switched places with offensive coordinator Robert and I. So he's on the field, and he just changes the dynamic, much more intensity.
Robert and I, Olivia said to us during the week, we asked him what would Robert and I 20 years ago say about Robert and I right now and this team. He said they'd say, why don't you have coaches who are tougher? So maybe he wants to liven himself up down there on the field as Thomas puts it on the ground, and they'll be at the 15. 46 yards on the punt. Robert and I, former BYU lineman, played with Steve Young there, then the offensive coordinator twice with Rich Rod in between.
Yeah, it's been a long and windy road, and he goes out places, and Arizona was one of them, and adds a little DNA to it. He had an offensive line stint with Mike Leach, and back as the BYU coordinator, and then obviously with Bronco Mendenhall here at Virginia, but it's interesting how that man as a play caller has evolved and the scheme that he thinks works in college football today.
His offense leads. Rozier to throw, has a drop, second down after Chris Cotter.
All right, guys, halftime coming up in just a little bit. Emmanuel Acho and Jim Moore will join me. We'll talk about what happened in the Pac-12 earlier today. A huge game in Eugene. Also, Michigan State's bringing the upset to add a little more confusion to the Big Ten. And Georgia, their first roadblock of the year in Death Valley. Highlights of all that coming up at the half. We'll see you then.
It's just a scary spot to have to go to LSU mid-October, and that LSU loss looking better and better for Miami. That's the only loss for the Hurricanes. Rozier gives it to Homer. Travis Homer down the sideline. Homer dumped out of bounds. Finally inside the 20. It took Bryce Hall all the way downfield.
And it's really the first time that Miami has opened things up. This is just a simple outside zone play, and Homer gashes Virginia, but the hustle play by Bryce Hall at least prevented the Homer touchdown, and we'll see now if Malik Rozier and this offense can get into the end zone as opposed to settling for another field goal.
You can sense a little more emotion from the Miami offense and a more sizable explosiveness with Rozier in. They'll run it again, this time DJ Dallas, who's driven out by Rob Snyder, among others. Second down.
We always have to keep in mind that defensive football is, you really start by saying, okay, if they have 7 on the board, how many can we take off the board? You hold them to at least a field goal attempt, and then you try to wipe that away. And so right now it's all about red zone defense, an offense in under a new quarterback in Malik Rozier trying to get in the end zone, and Virginia has been a really, really good red zone defense.
And the other quarterback, Perry's been very efficient in the red zone. That's been one place he's been exceptional. Dallas slides by. DJ Dallas to the 10-yard line.
DJ Dallas is a bigger running back than Travis Homer is, but Dallas is a little shiftier out in space, even though he's the bigger body guy, and Homer seems to run out of his way to find something solid to run into.
DJ Dallas, who stayed after practice with some of the offensive linemen to show some solidarity during the week. Third down, Miami. Rozier to throw. Rozier to the end zone. This is out of bounds, incomplete. Harley was down there with Brenton Nelson, and nobody could haul it in.
And Nelson has been banged up, and Harley, the receiver, has taken over the Braxton Berrios role, that slot receiver that makes things happen. And once again, it's a corner route. It's very late developing, although it was tremendously well covered by Nelson. But the throw was late by Malik Rozier once again. No room, no hope to kick that football in bounds.
This from 28 for Baxa. Bubba Baxa, the freshman, sinks another. 10-6. So it's been N'Kosi Perry, it's been Malik Rozier so far in the game. They're combined 5 for 13, and Hurricane fans demand more from the quarterback position, and rightfully so, because of guys like Jim Kelly and Bernie Kosar. Vinny Testaverde, who won the Heisman back in '86, Gino Chiaretta, Steve Walsh, and Ken Dorsey, who brought him the most recent national title in 2001. Mark Richt, the former quarterback himself, who says, look, I know what it's like to be a backup because he's been following Jim Kelly around everywhere he goes for his lifetime.
Back in those days, you held the clipboard. That's
right.
Kind of what you did. But that's what, to me, has been lacking. If Miami's going to get back to that team that wins big games, competes for championships, and has a chance to be that college football playoff team on an annual basis, they have the defense right now to do it. They don't have quarterback play to do it consistently.
Which one does it come from for the remainder of the night is the question. Do you bring Perry back in after a breather at the half? We'll see as the plot thickens for the Hurricanes, who try to win an ACC Coastal Division. So we mentioned Mark Richt and his quarterback pedigree behind Jim Kelly. Take a look at the lineup of quarterbacks. Jim Kelly, Vinny Testaverde, Bernie Kosar, quarterback coach Earl Morrall.
That's a pretty stout group. And Mark Richt must have been paying attention, because he certainly turned into a tremendous play caller at Florida State, got his name, and then has been a head coach. Sometimes the play caller, sometimes not. And initially at Miami he wasn't, and now he is, and that's probably his gifting as a coach, is calling plays offensively.
Perkins finds his way out of bounds. First down. Bronco Mendenhall is going through something similar in terms of making sure that he keeps his value as he oversees this Virginia team. He's stepped away from defensive play calling so he can be more of the CEO type.
Yeah, and he stepped away from his defensive play calling twice at BYU.
Yep.
And always came back. And the question becomes this to me: if your wheelhouse, your gifting in a sense, is calling plays, then are you hurting your program by stepping away from that? Now Bronco Mendenhall feels he's poured into his defensive coaches enough to step away once again.
Reed cannot shake red wine. Downstairs, Olivia.
And guys, with play calling on the defensive end, he says that he'll keep some commentary and he'll say, what about this? Consider this. Did you see this? But he'll never override the call, which is very interesting. He truly has stepped back. And from a practice standpoint, Juan Thornhill said it's really just less running when Bronco's not running the ship. You know, he's kind of old school like that, believes in pushing sleds and running after practice. But with Coach Nick Howell, he just believes in more personal accountability and wants to get more out of the play.
Well, and Olivia, Bronco Mendenhall knows exactly what's going on in that defensive room. He's coached or been an assistant, had an assistantship with each one of those guys, as Jordan Ellis is across the 45 to the 49, a first down. Zach McLeod finally tore him down, but Ellis is having a nice night.
Yeah, and one of the things that comes out of Bronco Mendenhall stepping back into that CEO role is he doesn't spend all of his time in the defensive film room. And so he has more of a feel of what's going on offensively. And he was the first one to tell us offensively they have to run the football better, and they're doing it much better on this drive. You know, Bronco Mendenhall is a guy that knows kind of how all of the parts fit together. They have to complement each other.
Please reset the game clock to 1:35, please. The play clock didn't start in a timely manner. 1:35. Play clock for 25 seconds, please.
The Virginia sideline is screaming at its offense to get up on the ball as we get 6 seconds of our life back.
Use them wisely.
First down, UVA just short of midfield. Miami will get the ball after halftime, and this is a low throw to Olamide Zaccheaus. And they do say it was caught across the 50. Gain of 4.
One of those things I was saying about Bronco Mendenhall is Virginia's trying to pick up the pace, is how one side has to complement the other.
Perkins. That defensive line is so tough. Garvin got the first paw on him. Quarterman was in there to help with the stop. And now on third down, Virginia with 2 timeouts remaining. We'll see if the Cavaliers decide to use them or see how this third down play goes. They're going to wait it out, trying to not give Miami the ball back with any time. What do you think?
A little questionable with 2 timeouts, and you're already pushing the 50-yard line. What do you have to risk by calling a timeout and saving a little time, trying to convert right here to extend this drive? You certainly don't want to put the ball in harm's way, however.
Jordan Ellis on the run now as he finds his way to the 42. With under 20 seconds to go, you're caught in the middle.
Yeah, now you wish you had those almost 20 seconds back. That was poor time management or clock management as far as I'm concerned.
If you use the timeout there 30 seconds ago, and you call a play which has just about a guaranteed completion, I know there could be a drop, but don't you basically get to choose how much time Miami has left?
Well, if you're going to call basically a conservative draw play to your running back anyway, use the timeout and do that. And if it's successful, you make hay with it. If it's not, you punt the football inside the end zone if you want to, and there's hardly any time left. Bad decision making, clock management right there, and who knows how the second half is going to play out. You might want something off of this drive right here.
A kicking game that's shaky at best for Virginia may come into view. It's a run for Ellis, and he's inside the 35. So now,
Jordan Ellis, the ball carrier,
with 9 seconds to go, what's your play call here with one timeout?
You have a timeout, so you can make something happen with 9 seconds. You can even throw it into the middle of the field. And remember, Brian Delaney's wheelhouse is starting about now at the 30-yard line on in. And so 3 points is certainly on the board.
Remember, he's been the kickoff specialist, so he is the strongest legged kicker. 27 kickoffs, 16 touchbacks this year. But how accurate is he? Perkins, 9 seconds, and he finds Ellis at the 30. You've got the timeout to burn. They'll give him the 29, and Virginia, again, which has a carousel of kickers, is going to have a chance for a 7-point lead.
Didn't you go Goldilocks on me the last time a Virginia kicker ran out there?
Well, yeah, one guy, Mejia, wasn't accurate enough. Pearson was accurate, but his practice habits weren't good enough, and the question is Delaney just right? They haven't made a field goal of 40-plus in 3 years.
Yeah,
that was in the closer that season.
That's a really long time. And then the other thing that Bronco Mendenhall added is Brian Delaney, he liked from the 30-yard line in, but he didn't like Delaney early in the game because he wanted him to calm down a little bit. So he's already been out there once, and now he gets an opportunity at a kind of spotting the ball about where his distance should come into play. The thing you don't want here is the double thumper. This being blocked and run back for a big play with Miami, and they're good at doing this.
Griffin will hold. Delaney the boot. Delaney got it! Virginia, there is a kicker. 13. Perry, we saw them both in half number 1. And for more on that, downstairs to Olivia, who just caught up with Mark Rick moments ago.
Thank you, Coach. You went with Malik Rozier at quarterback in the second quarter. What have you gotten since he's been in?
We got a little something going. He's a mature guy. He's been through a lot of wars, and this is a war, so we needed to put him in there.
Have yet to score a touchdown, but you start the second half with the ball. Will he stay in at quarterback?
Yeah, he'll be the QB.
Thanks, Coach.
Good stuff for Mark Rick. Rozier is the quarterback. N'Kosi Perry, 3 for 6, 20 yards, 2 picks. Rozier loads up a deep ball into double coverage and batted away. Thomas was the target. Blunt nearly had another pick.
And Thomas actually made a great play as a defensive back at the end of this one. This was double covered from the get-go. Thomas was running a deep post route over the field, and Virginia had it covered over the top, in and out, and it just wasn't there.
Travis Homer, who's been the saving grace for this run game since taking over for Martin Walton last year. Rozier and Perry combined first half, 5 for 13, 50 yards.
Yeah, dreadful.
What did you notice once Rozier was in, though?
Mark Rick felt comfortable throwing the ball down the field, but I think Rozier, he believes Rozier's going to see the pressure elements from Virginia a little better.
Snyder, the tackle, trying to drive Homer back. And we were talking to Juan Thornhill, the safety for Virginia during the week. And he said, look, I bulked up because of games like this when you face tough running backs like Homer who want contact, as we saw there. Rozier to Homer. See, that was one of those balls, as a flag comes in late, that was one of those balls that was just a little bit off target for Rozier that Mark Richt was talking about last year. Made Homer reach a little, and the holding penalty's not going to help.
Yeah, DJ Scave.
Holding. Offense number 51, 10-yard penalty, second down.
And that was the problem in the first half, is on the offensive line of scrimmage, Miami wasn't productive. And I know what the offense does. They say, okay, if we're not productive offensively, if we have a choice at quarterback, let's make a change. It's kind of coordinating 101. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I guarantee you this, Mark Richt is a former quarterback himself and has coached a bunch of them. He did not like what he was seeing out of N'Kosi Perry in his eyes in that first half.
DJ Dallas on the run, and it goes back to something Mark Richt told us midweek. He said the reason N'Kosi Perry hadn't gotten the shot yet to be the starting quarterback when Rozier opened the season was the off-the-field stuff. The being ready to be a leader, and road starts can sometimes bring things out that you'd rather not have.
Yeah, Mark Richt told us that it was about three things. Accuracy, check the box if you're Perry. Decision-making on and off the field, it had gotten better. Quite frankly, he had grown up a little bit. And then handle pressure. This is the first start on the road. There's pressure like no other in conference, and he did not handle that in the first half. And quite frankly, he didn't have a lot of help.
Cager was on the wrong side, third down. And was it a timeout, or did the play clock expire?
Delay game.
It is delayed.
5-yard penalty, third down.
See, Cager was on the right side of the formation. Rozier had to tell him, get on the left side to join the trips. And then suddenly the play clock whittled down to 0.
Yeah, and that's all about the quarterback. That's the quarterback administration before the play. And so Mark Richt told Olivia that we're going with the guy who's been in wars before. Well, you got to make better decisions than that and get your team up to the line of scrimmage and call a play before the clock runs out.
Wound down again. Rozier, free runner coming, and that was by design. Screen pass from Rozier, and they do get some of the yardage back. DJ Dallas, and another flag is in where Rozier delivered the ball. Looks like
15 yards to be added to the end of the run. First down.
it's on Zane Zandier, the sophomore from Pittsburgh, and a huge penalty against Virginia.
And if you're Virginia, you do not want to give any life to Miami's offense that just isn't getting anything going. Zandier is just absolutely unacceptable. A screen pass is allowing you to get to the quarterback, and you take a late shot and give Miami a play that they haven't earned. And Bronco Mendenhall knows that his team can't afford to do where his team was in the second half last year in this matchup, up by 2 touchdowns, and then they gave up 30 straight points and got blown out.
28-14 becomes 44-28 very quickly, and this is incomplete. He went over the middle looking for Jordan, the tight end, who's been invisible tonight.
And that is a place that I think Miami has to look in this second half. And Brevin Jordan is really a wide receiver route runner in a tight end's body. And I think that's a place they can exploit in the middle of the football field.
Tried to play wide receiver. He was too big for the position at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. They made him a tight end. DJ Dallas, who runs hard, is driven back right around the 35 by Darius Bratton.
No, Jason, in that first half, we talked about the offensive line. I've been a part of some of those quarterback changes on both ends. And it has a lot less to do about the quarterback and a lot more to do with the offensive line needs to get their act together.
How does that happen for Miami? What does that look like?
What they're doing right now, running to the perimeter and having options of balls to your playmakers out in space.
Into the pile with Trayon Gray, and he looks like he's got the first down. They're going to spot him right around the 33.
Virginia defensively is a diverse, multiple team and very aggressive. You have to use that aggression against them. A little misdirection, getting to the edge with your running backs, and then get Rozier to the edge, throwing to playmakers out in space. I think that's where Miami has an advantage, getting the ball on short throws and allowing those guys to go yards after catch after they get it.
See if indeed Trayon Gray, in the arms of Snowden, got himself the first down. They're going to measure. It looks like by our replay that he did. And it is a first down, Miami.
So you talked about it, Jason. Where is Brevin Jordan, the tight end, who's a very good route runner and should be a mismatch inside? I talked in the first half that Virginia has liked their matchups defensively outside on the perimeter, but I'm not talking vertical passing. I'm talking short passing and let your playmakers, if you're Miami, get little ones and turn them into big ones.
Catch and run.
Exactly.
First down, Rozier in the offense for Miami. And Virginia swarms the football again. 1995, maybe the biggest win in Virginia history, at least recent memory. Florida State came in here on a Thursday night and got beat. Tiki Barber had a big game. Anthony Poindexter, the linebacker, was chasing Warwick Dunn everywhere. But Florida State came thundering down the field late in that game, and Virginia held the line. So will the defense have enough to duplicate that tonight? Rozier on the roll. Rozier sets the corner, and he's out of bounds across the 25. 1995, Florida State had won its first 29 games in the ACC. Warwick Dunn just short at the horn, and Virginia got the win. Bobby Bowden, for the first time ever, had taken a loss in ACC play, and the Virginia Cavaliers put themselves on the ACC map behind Mike Groh at quarterback that day. Up the middle again, looking for a yard, and it depends on the spot.
Well, it's been the second time on this drive it's depended on the spot on third down and one or less, but that's what Miami did not do in the first half. They weren't efficient on first and second down, which leads to third down and throw the football into trouble. Not a lot of push, a little bit of penetration, and this goes to fourth down and inches.
So he is short, fourth down. Gray and Homer the backs. Fourth and inches. Gray goes high and gets knocked back. The question is, where is his progress? First blush, it looks like not far enough. Let's see. Remember, a spot is reviewable. Looks well short.
I think Gray actually lost yardage on this. Fullback dive is essentially what it is. We don't see it much anymore because the quarterback isn't under the center, but great defensive play up front. Once again, unbalanced line, and DJ Scaife gets blown up, and that's who Gray runs into. Anytime you give up ground on short yardage, you're going to lose that battle.
Jordan Ellis trudging ahead to the 30-yard line. So Virginia now with one loss in the league. We've talked about Miami's fortunes in the Coastal Division, but Virginia with a win here would put itself right in the race as Virginia Tech plays North Carolina over on ESPNU. This would be a signature win for Bronco Mendenhall against a ranked team here at Virginia in his third season.
No, without a doubt. And in that bye week, Bronco Mendenhall talked about kind of recalibrating to see what was working, what wasn't, and then to test it against probably the best team in their division. And so far, so good for his squad.
Quick hitter to the outside for Sharp. And it's third down. Bronco Mendenhall in search of that first top 25 win as the head coach here at Virginia. And frankly, it was the offense at the end of the season. Got them to a bowl game last year, but their only touchdown in the final 2 games against Virginia Tech and in the bowl game was an opening kickoff touchdown in the bowl.
Unbelievable. We were in here for a game and saw maybe the best offensive game that they've played under him. In fact, I don't think there's a question about that, but they absolutely dried up after we left town.
That was against Connecticut early last season. Perkins steps up right into the rush, and down he goes. Redwine came in first and forced the movement of the pocket for the Miami sack.
And that's exactly what prevented Perkins from getting outside. There was pressure off the right side of the quarterback, and this ball was supposed to go out in the flat to Chris Sharp early. And actually, Chris Sharp was out in the flat standing all alone. Because of that pressure, Miami dropped coverage defensively on the fullback coming out of the backfield. And if the quarterback could have launched that one, it would have been a huge gain to Chris Sharp.
12 tackles for loss last week for Miami, 6 sacks. And Coleman just barely gets it away to Thomas. With a fair catch at the 32. You may want to grab a snack because this...
I think their defense is, but their offense hasn't been consistent enough, and they let people hang around games too long as opposed to those great Miami teams of the past.
Rozier down the center of the field for a first down. Now look, I know what our report card said, 3 of 5 no. But watching that game last week, Ed Reed on the sideline, all those guys, it felt like they were back.
You're right.
Last week.
And being back now under Mark Richt is going to look different and sound completely different than what it used to be. But it all comes down to whether you win or whether you don't.
Dallas chipped down by Thornhill. 83 to 2001. They were 13 over against the top 10. 5 national titles. 123 guys drafted into the NFL. The class of college football in a lot of ways. So that's what they're aiming for.
And they were feared.
Oh, yeah.
And no question, but it was because of the holistic game. They were very good offensively and absolutely destructive defensively. And great on special teams as well.
How come you didn't coordinate a home and home with Miami, with Colorado State?
Yeah, I missed being brought into that decision making, but I would have vetoed it if I would have had a vote.
You didn't want to face that defensive front?
I actually played Miami once, and we played them close in the Orange Bowl. Vinny Testaverde days. But we lost the game, but we held our own. But I don't think they were willing to come across the Rockies to our place.
What was it like there that day?
It was awesome. Natural grass, everything that you want, playing a program like that, and to come out alive was a good thing.
Third down for Rozier. And movement at the line, a false start coming.
False start. Offense number 51, 5-yard penalty, third down.
It's on Scaife, who was the roadblock on the 4th down run.
Yeah, Scaife is the one that gave up ground on that 4th down run that was unsuccessful. And so what happens on the line of scrimmage is Navon Donaldson, I think, is the best offensive lineman Miami has. Typically now, he's listed as a tackle. He slides to guard, and the true freshman Scaife moves up. And right now, Scaife is making a few mental mistakes.
Smells like a bonfire here on 3rd down. Rozier launches down the sideline. Hall got position on Pope. What coverage by Bryce Hall.
Yeah, you can't cover the fade route any better than Bryce Hall does right here. Does everything exactly right on Mark Pope, and at the end you turn and locate the football, and then if you're in phase, meaning you're in the front pocket and not the back tail lights, you turn and become the receiver and try to make a play. Everything done right there by Bryce Hall.
You show that to defensive backs when they say they can't play their position because of interference.
That's a classic right there.
Decision to pick that up by Davis was interesting. He gets to about the 12, so tough field position with your Kelly vision.
No question about it. So Kelly vision is this. train yourself for a few plays to watch to the right side in the double box and just watch the defensive line and see what kind of penetration and destruction they get up front. Don't watch the football.
Ball is held on. They thought they were going to pry it free. Looked like Ellis was going to lose the football, and Willis with the stop.
So many times as a fan, we get caught watching the football all the time, and we forget how the game is actually played by different units. The defensive line for Miami is an elite group, and they create a lot of chaos up front. It leads to tackles for loss. It leads to the offense being behind the chain, and it eventually leads to all of those turnovers and the turnover chain coming out. Forget about the left for a minute. Watch the defensive line and the line of scrimmage to the right.
This is a run for Perkins. He finds his way around that edge, and he creates some room for his offense.
And that's exactly the answer, kind of the antidote for what Miami does in the box on the line of scrimmage. You have to get your best playmaker to the edge outside of that traffic. So even when that defensive line is not effective, there's a reason offensively why it wasn't, and that time it was getting to the perimeter, setting an edge, which is not easy to do up front. Joe Jackson, the defensive end, number 99, was caught inside, and it allowed Bryce Perkins to get outside.
It's a gain of 15 for Perkins. Pressure started to come, and he bails out. Once again, Perkins using the legs. Pocket held up for long enough as Pinckney doused him eventually. He had a couple moments there, Kel.
Yeah, and the thing about Perkins is he brings something to this Virginia offense that they haven't had. It's the out of the box, outside the play type of yards, and that's exactly how you get outside of that defensive line of scrimmage that creates all of that havoc up inside. 2 plays, we've seen the antidote to what Manny Diaz's defense brings.
They're going to go ahead and measure here as Perkins has a $119 for the day. What have you seen so far in the drive in that right side box in the defensive line?
Virginia's offensive line is playing much better up front than they have through this portion of the season against the best defensive line that they play. Right now, the defensive line of scrimmage for Miami looks somewhat out of gas and playing without emotion. And I wonder if that's the toll that last week against Florida State has taken on this team as this game goes along. Not a lot of juice up front for Manny Diaz's front four, and that's where everything begins. They're the hinge point. And before long, you keep thinking, well, they're going to create something and take the football away again, and then the offense is going to actually get a touchdown off of it at some point.
So what are we going to watch here on a 2nd and 1 on this defensive line?
Penetration. How much penetration and reestablishing the line of scrimmage backwards do they do?
They got there that time. Does the second effort create the first down, though? It looks like yes.
And Jason, that's the battle. Miami defensively is out of this world on 3rd down because typically the offense is behind the sticks. They're playing a Virginia offense that rarely is behind the sticks. They don't give up a lot of tackles for loss, and they typically don't give up turnovers, even though Bryce Perkins threw 3 picks in that first half. But once again, it's about the defensive line of scrimmage for me.
Take a look at a first down. No time to even rush the passer. Quick trigger from Perkins across the 45 to Dubois. That's another way to counteract it.
No question. Get to the perimeter with your quarterback that can run and get rid of the ball that really frustrates a pass rush that is very used to getting their way and getting to the quarterback. And Virginia, once again, get rid of the ball quickly.
How do you see that frustration?
I think a lack of effort and emotion right now, to be perfectly honest with you. They're tired of getting after the quarterback and the ball not being there when they arrive.
4-man front for Miami. This is a run and a big gash. Jordan Ellis. First down, Virginia.
So we can go to this look and tell you to focus on the defensive line of scrimmage, and it's not because the defensive line is going to blow everyone up and make plays and get takeaways. If they don't, there's a reason why. What is the offense doing? And right now, the offense is getting a push. They're getting a hat on a hat, and they're finding running lanes, and you don't see that often against this defensive front for Miami.
On first down, another quick trigger. Joe Reed up the sideline. He's inside the 40, Olivia.
As Kelly was talking about tackles for loss and setting them behind the sticks, you know, Miami came into this game leading the country with 72 tackles for loss. And for context, the next closest is Clemson with 57. And lineman Gerald Willis leads the team with 12.5. And he's the one who said Manny Diaz only had to tell us once. He said, look, if you're a Miami Hurricane and you can't get a tackle for loss, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. There's a lot of looking in the mirror during this game, though. They're not where they want to be.
Well, and Olivia, the front of the brochure for Miami typically is not guys with hands on hips, and that's what we just saw during your report.
Yeah, Olivia, that is a great report and insight to what we see playing out. In that two-box we were showing, where has Miami's defensive line of scrimmage gone to? They haven't really had an impact recently in this football game.
Virginia, here at Scott Stadium, has 1 quarter to go. Can Miami stay unbeaten in the league? Have some flickering college football playoff hopes, but they would fall down to the bottom of the sea with a loss here at Virginia tonight. Cavaliers on a 4-minute-plus drive, and oh my goodness, what a reaching grab by Dubois at the 25.
The RPO led to Dubois getting the football, and this ball was led away from coverage underneath, but right into the safety that was barreling down in Jaquan Johnson, and almost blew that play up. But Dubois is all about length. 6'3", 220-ish pounds, and goes and finishes on that football.
That was in front of Javonte Dean, who's in because of targeting against Jackson. First down run as we check in with Chris Cotter.
Guys, Shea Patterson has 1 fewer yard rushing than Jonathan Taylor does in this game. Here he takes it from 6 yards out, extending Michigan's lead. They decide to go for 2 as he fires up the crowd in the big house, and they get it. Nico Collins on the receiving end here, so it's 21-7 over on ABC.
Lone loss for Michigan to Notre Dame, still unbeaten in the Big Ten. Upset Saturday in the Big Ten for Penn State. See if Michigan can do that. Perkins off the pump fake. Bryce Perkins inside to the 15.
Bryce Perkins is making that second-level linebacking group for Miami look slow. And I once again, don't know if it's about all of the expenditure in that emotional win a week ago, but that time Shaq Quarterman came out to tackle the quarterback that made him look a little bit silly.
Bronco Mendenhall said to us, look, I'd like to tell you different, but when we saw Bryce Perkins, we said, this guy is athletic. We want him to be our quarterback. It's 3rd and 1 for Perkins. Late decision. He keeps the ball and has a first down. Virginia to the 10.
A late decision, but a great decision. And that's where Jordan Ellis has to be very patient not to take that football away. Let the quarterback make the decision. Watch how long that ride, that mesh takes, and then the quarterback ends up making the right decision.
Bryce Perkins wears number 3 in honor of Allen Iverson, and that was the football edition of the killer crossover.
Yeah, no question. That is a good call, and also the attitude of Allen Iverson on this play is going to be needed if Bryce Perkins and his team is going to finish this one in the end zone.
Play number 13 of the drive for Perkins. Olamide Zaccheaus. Oh, a hesitation, and he shows the agility for a couple of yards. Sports Center tonight after Crawford, Benavides, Max and Stan have it for you. Complete post-fight breakdown, and that should be a dandy. They got into it in the weigh-in. Busy college football Saturday. Dodgers, Brewers, a close one. Astros, Red Sox. Long first couple innings for Chris Sale. Sports Center after boxing on ESPN and the ESPN app. Joe Reed, number 2 for Virginia, a huge Red Sox fan, but he has other things on his mind, including beating Miami. Second down for Perkins. Pressure coming, and down he goes. Shaq Quarterman back at the 15-yard line.
And it was an early show of pressure, and Miami wasn't bluffing. In the end, Quarterman comes unblocked, and there just weren't enough bodies up front. And Perkins has to understand that. An early show of pressure. Do I have all of these hats for Miami blocked up? And if I don't, I have to make a good decision and get rid of the football.
Shaq Quarterman, who tried to pump his team up at the end of the third quarter on the sideline, does it with a loss of 7 there. Perkins keeps his feet. Perkins again keeps his feet. End zone, incomplete. Pinckney provided the pressure this time, and does Virginia, as a flag comes in on the far side. Kick the field goal if it's 4th down.
There's no foul for an eligible receiver downfield. Quarterback was throwing the ball away. 4th down.
So look, Cal, Brian Delaney's had a good day for Virginia, but he's the 3rd place kicker they've used on field goals this year.
Yeah, Bronco Mendenhall told us that Delaney won the job by applying good practice habits, which apparently Hunter Pearson did not do. So good for good practice habits.
This one from 32 for Delaney. It's good. He had the first 40-plus yard field goal for UVA since 2015. There is a marker down.
Offside. Defense number 54. The penalty to be declined. The field goal is good.
Lingard decides to take it out, and he is to the 25. Interesting stuff going on in the ACC. Pitt very close to beating Notre Dame. A.J. Dillon still out. We've got Friday night, Boston College, Miami coming up in a couple of weeks. See if Dillon is back for that. They did beat Louisville. NC State, West Virginia, that game that was canceled due to the hurricane would have been so interesting. They've got Clemson on the road next week. Who you got?
I like Clemson a lot. I think Clemson is kind of staging to be a really, really good team down the stretch here.
Just got by Syracuse to stay unbeaten. Homer off the check down. Little dodge inside. Travis Homer keeps his feet to midfield. Nifty run for a Homer. Injured Virginia player behind the play.
And that's one thing that Miami didn't do well throughout this game so far is perimeter run. So the way that you enhance your perimeter run is you throw it to your running back outside, and it's essentially an extension of the run game. We hear that all the time, but that's what it looks like.
Well, Chris Peace is the injured party here, the senior. That's a tough loss because he's the elder statesman in the linebacker core, but also he says that defensive energy starts with him. He's the guy that kind of gets everybody pumped up for that Virginia middle of the defense. So we'll see how long he is out. Again, they're down Malcolm Cook, Chris Moore, Jordan Mack, Richard Burney for prospective starters. Rozier, the screen for Homer. Travis Homer again using the edge of the field. After a gain of 24 last time, he finds his way down to the 30. First down, Miami.
And into the short side of the field, the corner Bryce Hall was coming off of the edge. If I want to call one play into the blitz corner, it's a screen. That's a perfect play call, and it's anticipatory play calling. I'm anticipating what Virginia has shown on tape. Short corner blitz, throw a screen right into the mouth of it.
Delayed handoff for Homer trying to weave his way, and there's nothing there. Snowden was first. Zandier was there along with him at second down. Under 10 to go.
Yeah, that last drive when Virginia had the football was something that you need to do well to win big games like this. 16 plays, 74 yards, and over 8.5 minutes. So it forces Miami's offense to feel a little bit of pressure and get something done on this drive.
Thomas on the far side only has one catch in this game. Rozier intercepted. A second one for Juan Thornhill. And the former basketball star barrel rolls across the 40-yard line.
This was, to me, all about pressure. There was pressure on Rozier. I think his arm either got hit or this ball actually got tipped. And it came out like some type of waterfowl that had just been shot out of the sky.
Juan Thornhill, who took over for Quinn Blanding to run this
side and gets pressure and affects the quarterback right at the end. And that ball came out funny from the beginning. And Juan Thornhill has told us that he's a guy that can go up and get it, right?
Well, he loves basketball so much. We talked to him yesterday. You can see it in his eyes. Off the backboard. He remembers vividly his first alley-oop. It came in 8th grade. His cousin threw him the lob off an inbound pass.
8th grade.
8th grade.
I couldn't get off the floor in 8th grade.
What a story he is. Juan Thornhill creates the turnover. And now Bryce Perkins to throw on first down. He wants it all down the sideline for the freshman. Incomplete for Tavares Kelly as we check in with Chris Cotter.
Let's go to Tuscaloosa, guys. And if you remember, Tua banged up his knee against Arkansas. Here he is on his own trying to pick up the first down. Slides. He was a little ginger there. He re-aggravated that knee. You see he's got a brace on it. So he left the game with Alabama up comfortably against Mizzou. Although there's never anything comfortable if you're a fan of Alabama and you see Tua kind of limping off, even if it's under his own power. But Jalen Hurts comes in. He was 6 of 7. Finds Henry Ruggs here. They punch that in. 39-10 early in the 4th on ESPN, guys.
Remember back in the day when Alabama sometimes didn't have a quarterback that they were confident in?
And they still won like every game back in those days.
And now they have 2 as Shaq Quarterman is off the field. Perkins steering the offense to 16 first downs to Miami's 10 tonight. The JUCO transfer Bryce Perkins. With Reed in the backfield, he looked that way. Now pressure coming, he spins out of it. And with Garvin breathing down his neck, it sets up a 3rd down. Hey, 15 schools, all on one network. A new place to call home, the ACC network, coming August 2019, and it might just be in August 2019 when we have a Coastal Division champion for 2018. We could end today with 6 teams with 1 loss in the Coastal.
What kind of smoothie is that?
It's one that they do not like very much in Miami or Blacksburg.
And it certainly could be bunching up, and it will be because Virginia has applied their lessons of the past, and Bronco Mendenhall giving away play calling to be the CEO and overseeing everything, and so far so good in this one.
Timeout called Virginia, which is 3 of 8 on 3rd down. Miami allows under 20% on 3rd down. Can they hold the line after the state where he washed out behind Mike Bercovici? And Perkins now on a 3rd down against one of the toughest defenses in the country for Virginia. He hands it off. Jordan Ellis scrambling near midfield. And it's 4th down. You wouldn't dream of going for it.
Oh, absolutely not. But the thing that you have to do is, as you send your punter out there in Lester Coleman, you need to be buttoned up in punt protection, because Miami has some fast dudes out on the edges, and they've actually come close a couple times tonight to blocking a few punts.
They had 2 guys in.
Yeah, this is where you cut down your approach as a punter, and if you're a 3-stepper, you only take 2. And you want to get rid of this one. You don't need to hit a bomb. Jeff Thomas is back for Miami to try to field it and make something happen.
They'll sap the clock down and get it away. Thomas waves it off. The ball seeks him out, and Virginia touches up inside the 10-yard line. Spaziani all the way down the field, the long snapper. This week's Sunday NFL Countdown inside the Patriots locker room with the story behind their mantra that's capped off every Pats win for more than a decade. All access with the very interesting Rams. We even saw last night in the Utah game, the Utes adopting some of the play calls from Sean McVay. Sunday NFL Countdown, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. And then Monday Night Football, 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific on ESPN. Niners against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field. In electric Scott Stadium, the worst starting field position tonight for Miami. And they get it away with a completion up the sideline to Trayon Gray across the 15. Miami in the second half has been majorly damaging against its opposition this year, but not tonight. Typically, that's been because of turnovers. Coming in, 13 of their 14 turnovers created had come in the second quarter or later, more than half in the second half. But that's gone quiet in this second half against upstart Virginia. Rozier, who didn't start the game but looks like he'll finish it, hits Trayon Gray across the 20-yard line.
Two really nice decisions by Malik Rozier, and quite frankly, that's why he's in the game, according to Mark Richt, is he's been here before. Two quality decisions, throwing the check down underneath coverage when Virginia had everything covered vertically.
Mentioned that Malcolm Cook had been out for Virginia. He was in there to make the stop that time. So Cook getting some playing time tonight. Rozier nearly intercepted by Hall, who's had an outstanding night tonight. It's third down.
What Hall is doing here is he's looking in at the quarterback, and when the quarterback stops his drop, you're free to break on the football because you know the drop of the quarterback times up with the depth of the route. And Cager ran a hitch. Bryce Hall broke on it and knocked it away with his right hand.
Miami 2 for 9 on third down tonight. They came with a couple linebackers, and Rozier got it away for Brevin Jordan, the tight end, who's typically the X factor, but he hasn't seen very many footballs tonight. Gain of 12, first down.
They came with a couple linebackers and also the safety Joey Blunt off that short corner once again. And if you're going to throw, you want to throw into that void that the blitzer creates, and that's exactly what Rozier did on that play.
6 to go. Rozier screens it out again. Homer has been effective after the catch and after contact. Peace back in after the injury, makes the stop, second down.
And you do have to move with a little pace here. It's a two-possession game, and I think Miami's coaching staff wants Malik Rozier to get him going just a little bit quicker than he has been.
We saw N'Kosi Perry for just 6 passes in the game, couple of interceptions, and he was pulled after a few series. Rozier pressured and sacked. Chris Peace got there.
Virginia hasn't been real stout up front, but this is a great example of only bringing 4, which is kind of contrary to Virginia's makeup. Typically they overload a side, and you have to guess as a quarterback whether they're coming or not. That time it was rushing 4 and they got home.
Third and long. Rozier, the senior, trying to keep it alive. Down the middle, what a ball. Through a forest of jerseys for Virginia. Cager has 17.
Cager had ran away from his coverage, but there was a lot of traffic in the middle. Try to get that ball in there. I mean, that's throwing through a ton of clutter. That was clutch by not only quarterback Rozier, but also Cager, the receiver.
Rozier Walls caving in. Rozier breaks a tackle. He's inside the 35, and the veteran has another Miami first down, gain of 17.
Nick Howell told us, the defensive coordinator of Virginia, that Rozier is a much better runner than N'Kosi Perry is at this point in time, and Rozier comes up gimping just a little bit.
He will do everything to stay in next to DJ Dallas on first down. 9th play of the drive. Batted away, nearly picked once again. That linebacker, Malcolm Cook, coming back from injury to play tonight, 2nd down.
Malcolm Cook is in a zone, and it's man-to-man actually on the receiver. So Malcolm Cook is just staring down the quarterback and is going to let the quarterback's eyes take him to the football, and that's exactly what Malcolm Cook did right there. Just couldn't quite catch the football.
Bronco Mendenhall's lamented his lack of depth. He gets Cook back tonight in a big spot. Pocket holds up. Rozier to the outside, has the tight end. Jordan cutting inside. First down and more with a cartwheel to boot.
It's the first time we've seen Brevin Jordan, and it was simply out in the flat. And I talked about this in the first half. Give your playmakers the ball short and let them get yards after the catch and turn it into a big one. Miami was just electing to go vertical, and Virginia was D'ing them up on the back end.
He's a matchup disaster, but again, time ticking away, sand out of the hourglass for Miami. 2-score game. Rozier felt the pressure, finds his way outside, and scores! Touchdown, Malik Rozier.
Rozier's feet have made a difference at times in this second half, and we knew that he was a better runner, but typically when he runs, it's about good decision making. But we talked about Brevin Jordan. Keep an eye on 9 at the top and watch his block. I mean, that was the block that led his quarterback into the end zone. Contribute however you can at this point in time if you're Miami.
Bubba Baxa just got it away. And it's a 3-point game with a flag in, flag down.
Foul. Roughing the kicker. Defense, 34. A 15-yard penalty to be assessed on the kickoff. The point is good.
You're going to have basically a guaranteed touchdown. Danny Cannell, Warwick Dunn. It was a direct snap to Dunn. He was nearly in the end zone, just held out. But again, that game hinged on a late drive from a team from Florida as they overran the Scott Stadium turf 33-28. Ken Rozier put his team in that same position. It's up to the defense right now. 3 timeouts left for Miami, and off the personal foul penalty, roughing the kicker. They are going to onside it as a surprise, and it's going the other way. Miami with the trickery. Evan Butts, the tight end, plucked it out of the air. What a gutsy call, and it went the wrong direction for the Canes.
And I think the wrong call. You have 3 timeouts left if you're Miami. You have an elite defense that hasn't been that elite today, but that ball also wasn't going to go 10 yards.
I'll counter that by saying, with the penalty, it's so poor a field position for Virginia, you're not going to lose a whole lot by trying it, or so you think. But the problem is that very result for the Miami defense.
Penalty is probably what tipped the scales of Mark Richt deciding to do that. You're exactly right.
Jordan Ellis on the run. Timeout, Hurricanes 2 remaining. We'll be back, 16-13 UVA. Oda, slight modicum was basically his verbiage, better than last year. he felt like this was the building season. This is the year where he's trying to essentially, quote unquote, cash a check for the program, moving forward, make a profit out of this season, profit in terms of wins and a bowl victory. This would go a long way for a guy who basically told us yesterday that if they're going to make a bowl game, it might be reaching for the finish line. This win would keep that from happening. Maybe. Under 3 to go. 2 timeouts left for Miami. PERKINS will run the JUCO transfer up to the 20-yard line. To gain of 5. Timeout Miami. We are back in 30 seconds after this. 16-13 Virginia.
At Hooters, you can watch the games with your buddies. Oh, your buddies. Like the ones with ice-cold beer and wings that'll knock your taste buds into next Tuesday. Buddies who you won't have to fight for the remote. Buddies who know a thing or two about football. And the fans who live for it. Hooters, your official hangout for game day. Get 10 free original-style wings exclusively with Uber Eats now through October 19th.
We mentioned Bronco Mendenhall's idea of how this program has moved. He used the term bankruptcy for year 1. Cupboard was bare. Build a business out of a parking lot, essentially. Find a structure, you got this lot, do something with it. And here, cutting a check was the verbiage he used for the progress of this program. And the bank is likely closed late on Saturday, but he'd like to take that to the teller with a victory over Miami. On a 3rd down, they likely need 2 first downs here. 1 timeout remaining for the Hurricanes. Sharp in motion. PERKINS steps back. We see the athleticism, but he is stopped. So Miami with that 1 timeout remaining as, let's see, flag comes in after the play. Was it a late hit against the Hurricanes? An absolutely lethal penalty if it is.
The penalty is half the distance to the goal. First down.
That's likely not the game, but certainly just an absolute killer against Tito Odenibo, the redshirt senior.
Number 94, just well after the play, hits an offensive lineman right in the middle of the back. It was Jake Feeler, number 77, and it's hard to really quantify the lack of discipline that you just saw in the frame right there.
Just why?
Wow.
2nd personal foul tonight against Miami. And now the Hurricanes with 1 timeout remaining. Some post-play activity still going on. And Jordan Ellis shoved into the end zone by Cowley, the tight end.
And I think that offensive line of scrimmage from Virginia was really tired of hearing about how good the defensive front was for Miami. That group up front, in Applefield 71 and Feeler 77, and across the line have played really well. Rutgers transfer Applefield, one of the seniors on this line, and tonight we could have a fight very much like this one. A belt will be on the line. Main event bout on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. Terrence Crawford against Jose Benavides in Crawford's hometown in Middle America, Omaha, Nebraska. 10:30 Eastern, coming up 7:30 Pacific. Stream the undercards and main event live on the ESPN app starting at 7:30 Eastern, going on right now. Again, they had it out in the weigh-in. So, we've got quite the joust tonight. Virginia up 3, 2:10 to go. The Hurricanes exhausted of timeouts. PERKINS rolling. He's hemmed in, and down he goes. You wouldn't think about letting them in with 2 minutes left, right? You just play this out and see how much time's left. I think you do. I think you play it out and hope that there's a little shoddy ball security and hope for a miracle. I think is about all that's left at this point in time for Miami defensively.
Remember, Virginia was up 14 on Miami last year, 28-14. Miami, if they get a stop here, will have time on the clock for the offense. Virginia looks like it's going to burn a timeout here. Again, though, Kel, Virginia's field goal situation has not been stable
That's what I was going to
this
say.
year.
Yeah, you're running the clock down, which you should in Miami, or Virginia's then going to call a timeout. But
second timeout.
A field goal has been really good today with Brian Delaney being very, very solid. But it's about protecting that guy and athleticism on the Miami side.
Quick check-in with Chris Cotter in the studio.
Guys, how impressive has Iowa State been over these last couple of weeks? Brock Purdy again, this time finding Deshaunte Jones. So it's the third quarterback that Matt Campbell has used this year, and they are hammering Will Greer in West Virginia. Here's Greer getting picked by DeAndre Payne. He has 4 in the last 2 games. It's 30-14 in the fourth.
That's the last remaining unbeaten in the Big 12, Chris Cotter. The West Virginia Mountaineers and Brock Purdy, who was just magical last week in Stillwater, doing it again. Brian Delaney, the kicker for Virginia, won the job this week. They've turned to him. He's been perfect. Will he need to be pressed into action, or will this 3rd and goal get in for Bryce Perkins and Virginia? On 3rd down, Ellis tried to rip it outside, and he goes down. So inside the 10, this will be about a 24-yard field goal if they decide to go for it. What would you do here?
Well, first of all, you burn another timeout by letting this clock run down to nothing left on the play clock, essentially 1 second, and then reevaluate. But the thing, it isn't about Delaney, because I think he's been solid. But the question is protecting against a field goal attempt, because that's essentially all Miami has left right here.
Remember, the leaping rules as well could come into play in terms of jumping over the space occupied by a lineman as they do push. Virginia, 1 timeout remaining. They go ahead and burn it as we go back to Chris Cotter.
All right, guys, just a reminder, coming up next, Zach Wilson and BYU making his first career start, getting set to take on Hawaii. It should be a fun game to watch. They'll kick in about 3 minutes time from Lavelle Edwards, guys.
Well, Bronco Mendenhall very familiar with that area. .34 seconds to go. 4th down and goal. Virginia with Delaney out there. It's a 30-yard attempt as they took the delay and kept their timeout. Griffin will hold. Delaney, the newly minted kicker for UVA, has made himself a star. A flag is out as well.
Roughing the kicker, number 2. Defense. The point is good. The penalty be assessed on the kickoff.
So now, with the penalty against Bandy, Virginia has some options here with the kickoff.
Well, every option should include not allowing Miami to return. But actually, do they convert here and pick up a 1st down?
Well, now the officials are going to talk this over. Why are they not allowing Virginia to take the penalty, wipe the points off the board, and end the game?
Virginia will take the roughing the kicker penalty. The penalty will be half a distance to the goal, and it's an automatic 1st down.
Yeah, the officials went to it first, and this is going to be the end of the night for the Hurricanes. Who needs a field goal when you can take 1 knee?
It appeared initially that the officials were huddling to assess that penalty on the kickoff, and Delaney gets ran into. Now, absolutely, you have the right to take the penalty. In this case, it converts to a 1st down, and you kneel on 1.
Now, it's a different situation if it's a personal foul after the play, post down. In that case, you get roughing the kicker. this game's over. It's one
absolutely.
kneel down for Virginia.
The sweetest play in football, if you're on the offensive side, is this victory formation. And Bronco Mendenhall's been waiting for a long time to see this in a game like this.
One knee, and Bryce Perkins, who last year was playing in front of 500 in Yuma, has thousands more friends, and they're going to join him on the field in Charlottesville. First win against Miami in 4 years. It looks like 95 here in Charlottesville. They do it against Miami this time. 16-13 your final score for Olivia and Kelly and our crew. I'm Jason. More college football is coming up next to Provo, Hawaii, and BYU.
We welcome those of you who just watched Virginia take down Miami in Charlottesville.